Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell Podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. Pleased to be joined by the managing editor at the Podium Finish, Nathan Solomon. You've spent the last 2 weekends at the track, but yesterday was quite the day for you. First off, how are you, bud?
Good, man. I'm tired. I will say as much fun as I did have covering the last two race weekends, it's definitely really tiring and it's catching up to me. So, it'll feel weird not being at the track this weekend, but it'll be a welcomed, calm weekend for me at home. So I am looking forward to that.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll be getting back to the track in the next week after that. So, yeah, but just overall, just describe what happened when after the race was over. Yeah, everyone thought Denny Hamlin had won. Kyle Busch just finished second, and then what really happened with that? Did you feel like something could happen, or was it like the biggest total shock? And what was the reaction in like the media center?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in like the first hour or so after the race, it felt like any other, just any other NASCAR Cup Series post race. I mean, went out to the bullpen, obviously took care of that. Obviously there are storylines there. With not just the race itself, because it was a very good race. Of course, Ty Gibbs making his Cup Series debut, very unexpected, replacing Kurt Busch. That was obviously one of the biggest storylines of the day. Then we, went back. Obviously, your post race press conference happened, and obviously there's a lot to talk about there because of who we originally thought won the race, Denny Hamlin. Obviously he's the car owner of the 45 car, which Ty Gibbs drove. Denny crashed Ross Chastain on Sunday, so there's stuff to try to talk about there. He kind of declined comment about it. And then of course what we thought was the race win itself. So, him and Chris Gabehart and Joe Gibbs, they all come in and out of the media center, and everything just seems normal, right? We're all kind of filing our stories, and I'm trying to remember. I got one of my stories done. What was my first? Oh, geez, I'm having a moment. What was my first story? Oh yeah, my first story was the Ross Chastain Denny Hamlin incident. So obviously, I mean, I kind of started to write it like I kind of waited till right after the press conference to start working on it, obviously, because I needed quotes from Denny for it. I got everything kind of set from Ross, but so I got that up, and when I got that done, I started working on my next piece, and that was my Ty Gibbs piece, and then I don't know, I just got like really weird vibes, like it's really difficult to explain, like you just get a weird feeling that something's up, and then NASCAR comms event a few minutes later came up to the mic, and he's like, yeah, we got an announcement about post-race tech. The 18, the 1, or sorry, the 11, the 18 have failed post-race tech and have been disqualified. So I don't know. It was just it's just a really weird gut feeling of like, I feel like something's up. I don't know what's up, but feel like something's up. So at that point, a handful of media members had actually already left before tech was announced. So the media center had already thinned out a good bit, and then there's another kind of handful of reporters that were getting like pretty close to heading out, like they're starting to kind of pack their stuff up and get ready to leave. So obviously that did not happen because of the disqualification, and that certainly changed the story of the race big time. And some of the reporters actually ended up coming back into the media center to get back to work again, like they drove back in or whatever, and because NASCAR was going to speak about it in the press conference room, and obviously they did. Brad Moran came in and described it in as much detail as he could at that point, since Joe Gibbs Racing had yet to decide if they're going to appeal it or not. They at that point, obviously we didn't know, so since it hadn't been announced yet, there's only so much NASCAR could say. They kind of gave us a vague description of what had happened, saying that that the Gibbs cars had something wrong with the front fascia, and they told us it was kind of around the headlight area, but they didn't. And there's some material that was there that was not supposed to be there, and that's all we've kind of found out. And then obviously, we go home from that, and then this afternoon on Sirius XM radio, Scott Miller was on, and he said that there's basically extra vinyl under the headlight areas of the car. So which it basically it kind of changes. I don't want to say the heights, but it just changes the shape of the car so slightly. Like, I mean, with the naked eye, you certainly can't see it. I mean, you can't really tell until you scan it in post race tech. And obviously it's too big. There's an extra piece of vinyl under there, which made the headlight area kind of go out a little bit too far. And it created an unfair aerodynamical advantage. So that's why both cars ended up failing tech. So Joe Gibbs Racing owned up to the mistake. They are not appealing it. They put out a statement that says that they owned it. They're like, yeah, we don't really understand. Obviously we know that's illegal. We don't understand how that happened. And well, they said that they found out, but then they're making changes to their system so it doesn't happen again. So they're taking complete blame for it. But I think that just shows to tell that you can't do much to alter those cars. I mean, it's going to get caught if you if you change some of those parts. So I mean, obviously there's a lot of changes you can make to the car, but you can't do anything like that. So I mean, there's a couple wake up calls this weekend about it too, because this kind of got swept under the rug, but the L1 penalties from the two Petty GMS cars with rocker box violations, both the 42 and the 43, the same violations, and then the same violations on the 11 and 18, which had to do the front fascia. So I think this kind of reaffirmed what NASCAR said before the season, and then what happened after the Brad Keselowski situation at Atlanta is that do not mess with these parts because you will get penalized. And Petty GMS and Joe Gibbs Racing were both prime examples of that.
Yeah, for sure. It's you cannot mess with these cars. You will be caught, and they got them. So that is another thing there. Yeah, there was all this other storylines. You mentioned Ty Gibbs, jumping in the 45, and we all thought that was the big story of the day, which it still was, and obviously before this happened. What was that like going into? And then you guys are all gathered, go to the 45 hauler, and go talk to Ty Gibbs, and everybody was there to talk with him. As Ty Gibbs brings a crowd with him, just like. Which is used to some NASCAR drivers. What was that like to go over there and see him? How do you think he did?
I thought that Ty did really well. I mean, obviously he had never been in an next gen car until the green flag of the race, so that's kind of a huge learning curve right there. He said, he did some simulator work. It sounds like what happened was on his way to the airport after the Xfinity race, he got a call that this could be a possibility that he would be in the car on Sunday. Went home, went right to the Toyota simulator, did simulator work till 1 a.m, flew back in the morning with Chris Gale, his Xfinity Series crew chief, and then I believe he did not find out until Sunday morning that he was officially going to be in the car. NASCAR was going to look at Kurt Busch again Sunday morning, and at that point is when they deemed that he's not clear to race. So they put Ty in the car. He was literally in Kurt's fire suit. Ty did not have a fire suit that fit or would work. So he was literally in Kurt's fire suit, and then in Denny's Jordans. So I thought he did really well. So first couple stages, he kind of just rode around in the back and really started to learn the limitations of the car, which is really, really expected. And then the final stage, he kind of started making some moves a little bit. I'm not going to say he was overly aggressive, because he wasn't, but he certainly picked up the aggression level a good bit and started to become a lot racier. And he was in the top 10 for a little bit there through the pit cycle. Once it cycled through, he was kind of mid-pack there and picked up a couple spots on the end on some of those late restarts. So crossed the line 18th, finished 16th after the disqualifications to Hamlin and Kyle Busch. But Overall, I think a really impressive debut for Ty Gibbs, and there's certainly going to be a lot more of those Cup starts to come. When will it happen? Not sure. I'm probably won't be until 2024, most likely. But really impressive start for Ty Gibbs in his Cup Series career.
You saw a pretty interesting weekend. Actually, the last 2 weekends have been very interesting. Obviously, we'll just focus on this weekend at Pocono. Outside of the Cup race, you saw there was some pretty interesting headlines. The Xfinity race, of course, saw a pretty good battle with Noah Gragson and the aforementioned Ty Gibbs, of course, battling it out with 10 laps to go, and and then of course Jeb Burton's flip. That was first time that's happened in probably at least the mid 2000s.
I believe it's the first flip at Pocono since Steve Park in 2002 or 2003, I believe.
It was 2002 when Steve Park did. Who knows if Ken Schrader might have gone over in 03 when he had that. Remember if he had that fiery crash from back then? But yeah, it certainly has. It certainly has been a while. Of course, the truck playoff grid is now set. Of course, we're going to do another show on that probably tomorrow, previewing that playoff. And of course, the preview show will be later this week, and the ARCA show will be also later this week as well. Talking about, of course, as the trucks and ARCA are at IRP. And then, of course, the ARCA race at Pocono was rain shortened and had to survive another storm and all that. So overall, sum up the weekend, Nathan.
Yeah, I will correct you though. It wasn't rain shortened. It was daylight shortened.
Daylight shortened. I mean,
there was rain. It did start on time though. Obviously, the TV window affected that. But yeah, it was a good weekend. There's certainly a lot going on over the last 2 weeks. Kind of hectic on Saturday with 2 races, 2 sets of qualifying and practice, and also a bunch of media availability scattered throughout the whole day. But got a lot of great stuff there. It was good to see all 4 series together. That was really the only time I got to see all 4 series together. The only time I'll see the trucks this year. And I have a little bit of a soft spot for the trucks, of course. But so hopefully I'll maybe get to see them a couple times next year. But no, overall it was a really good weekend. Definitely enjoyed it a lot. We started off the weekend Friday with a tornado warning.
Supposedly.
A supposed tornado warning, though I didn't see anything on National Weather Service. They announced it all over the track.
Yeah, and I texted a few meteorologists. They said, no, that's not. There's not a tornado warning in Pocono. But there was some road there. If that stuff kind of missed that area, I think there could have been.
Well, it was certainly a pretty gnarly storm. So we had that, and then the ARCA race, which ARCA'd, and then Saturday, of course, as you mentioned, another really good Xfinity race. A couple of really hard hits in that race, unfortunately. Raja Caruth and Alex Labay on lap 3, which is a really unfortunate situation there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we're really in the same spot on the racetrack, the problem spot all day, right? Kind of at the entrance to pit road.
Any corner, 3.
The crash there with Santino Ferrucci and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and then Jeb Burton flipping, which was a very, very weird crash. Just like the way that Jeb kind of got, like, he went low to avoid it, and then Stenhouse came down the track, hit him on the passenger side door, even though obviously not passenger side, but and then just kind of like pinned him up into the wall, and the air got under him and flipped him, which is really weird. But great response time there though to get him out. I think he was on all 4 wheels after just 3 or 4 minutes. So well done by NASCAR there. As you mentioned earlier in the day, the truck race. The truck I wish that race was a little bit longer, and a 150-mile race is certainly a little bit on the short side, even though for the Camping World Truck Series. But I wish that race was a little bit longer. Obviously, a lot of cautions there in the first 2 stages, and 2 just really, really short stages. I wish that was kind of a 200-miler at least. But good weekend though overall, and excited to get back in a few weeks at the Glen.
Yeah, for sure. And you get the ARCA and of course ARCA Xfinity and Cup will all be at the Glen in the next time you are at the racetrack. Of course, it's gonna do it. But before we leave, what's coming up on the old TPF?
I don't know. I can't give away too much.
Well, please don't, because I made that mistake last week.
You did. I don't know. You announced my interviews before I got to announce them. Jeez, but if
Yeah.
you want to know who those are, I guess you're gonna have to watch the last time I was on to see Casey spoil them. So I'll have content from those 2 interviews there, and I still have a little bit more race coverage to come out. So that's all I'll say on that.
Okay. All right, Nathan. We'll talk to you. We'll probably have you on before Glen Week, but of course, we'll probably see you before then. And thanks for coming on, man.
No problem.